This is one hell of an afternoon. Hey, folks. Bryan M. Davis here, talking to you always from in Brooklyn, New York. My friend, co-host Hayden Lumus, somewhere in Georgia. So yeah, today is a hell of a day.
Hello there.
Yes. You want to give them the news, or should I?
I will say it as this: justice has been served. So I don't know how many of y'all have been following the Depp versus Heard defamation trial, but I will say this: justice has been served. And Johnny's side, well, I shouldn't say side. I'll just say Johnny proved all his points and won $15 million in total, or really, I guess, awarded. I don't know if that's the proper word or not. I don't know how they use it in terms of courts. But anyway, $15 million for Johnny and $2 million for Amber. But ultimately, all Johnny wanted to do was basically just show the world the truth. And he did. And in the end, the truth has prevailed. So, that was like, it was stressful. It was a little stressful because at one point, like, the jury literally forgot to write in the dollar amounts, which they were supposed to do. So it was like, we're all you got everyone watching these live streams of this trial. And I was like, yeah, Judge Penny, I can't remember her last name.
Yeah.
Literally has to send the jury back so they can just write down what they were supposed to have already written down in the first place. And it's like, well, now we got to wait longer. Let's build up that suspense.
What I will say is, though, it harkens back to probably the OJ trial, because I'm a 90s kid. I'm pretty sure you were a 90s kid as much as I think you are.
I was born in the 90s, so I got some of that 90s stuff to a degree, but
all right,
not the full 90s package, I'll say that.
All right. Well, I got the full 90s package, or at least from 92-ish, 91-ish. Yeah, early 91, early 92, because I was there when they did the Gulf War. I was there, and I wasn't there when they actually did the Gulf War. I mean, I was there when they did the Gulf War on television. That's what I was trying to mean. And I was also there when I had Gulf War merchandise on, being sold anyway. So that's anyway. But I with this trial, I harken it back to the OJ trial, where it was the OJ trial, as batshit as it had people wanting to know what would a trial be, and this trial had the same reaction, where it was just a lot of people knew what was going to be what was going to be happening in terms of just hey, this trial, Johnny Depp v. Amber Heard, is probably going to be one of the biggest trials, not only in the past few years, but also in the entertainment industry as well. Because in the entertainment industry, when someone goes to trial, even if they're an actor or producer, director, they're usually big, but not something like this big.
Mm-hmm.
And compare it to the OJ trial, where it's and that had wall-to-wall media coverage, and now this has wall-to-wall media coverage now that the trial is wrapping up, and now everyone has more or less read the verdict and stuff like that too. Whereas it's yes, it's you would think that, and you would think in cases like this, right, where it is obviously apparent that someone was abused and someone was controlling the narrative. There we go. And compared to, say, other times where it's someone is just suing because this studio, had a breach of contract with, this actor had a breach of contract with the studio, so the studio is trying to like sue them for essentially the payout of whatever, right? But compared to this trial feels like more of a impactfulness of like any other trial you probably would see on like a normal trial. And I think it just brings the notion of, Johnny Depp isn't, I'm pretty sure he probably mentioned this probably. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he would probably say this. He's probably made mistakes in the past. He has a past with, uh, what's it called?
Yeah, he's had his issues in the past with like
With
with alcohol and drugs, but
drugs, yeah.
And this is honestly a great thing, and I love that you're saying this too, because we see Johnny on the stand taking accountability for his actions. He admits that he had a problem with drugs, with alcohol. He literally even says on the stand at one point, quote unquote, the only person I was abusing was myself.
Yeah.
And he's saying that in regards to the alcohol and the drug use that he did.
Yeah, and one of the things I noticed that was they were trying to villainize Depp's alcoholism and substance abuse as being the reason why everything was chaotic as it was. And people who have been in this situation where they have been with a partner who essentially was emotionally abusive and stuff like that too, they will essentially villainize your weaknesses. And for Johnny Depp, one of his weaknesses was essentially, alcohol and pills and drugs and what have you.
Yeah.
And
another great thing to kind of like, there's a lot of this that's like, it's worth kind of like really looking into and digging into, because you can find out a lot about these two from this too, and also the kind of company they keep, and just even the witnesses and just the expert witnesses they use too. That also reveals so much about the quality of Johnny Depp and the quality of Amber Heard. No, but I bring this up to the point that you're saying too, is like, when Amber's talking about Johnny going into recovering drug use, and she says she thinks he's using it, and the way she describes it is like she doesn't describe it as like someone who she has said countless times, oh, well, I'm so in love with this person. The way she describes it is like rolling her eyes like, ugh, this again. And it's like, for all of this constant, like all these claims he's constantly made, it's like, why are you with him then, if according to everything you've been saying in this trial, he's so bad? Like, you have every opportunity to get out. Like, this isn't like, you're already married, because now the way she's been telling it, it's like, oh, well, this happened before. Well, if it happened before, you could have gotten out. None of it just makes logical sense at all. Like, that's really the biggest thing of this too. It's like, one side just being honest and truthful and admitting to their faults, and another side, that side being Johnny, just being honest and truthful, even though it's like, it's going to put you in a bad light, but you got to be honest. You got to be honest with yourself, and you got to be honest with the world about this. Whereas when you hear Amber talking about all this stuff, what we see is someone who refuses to take any accountability. Like, she constantly tries to say she didn't do drugs, and even when she does have to admit she did, she says, oh, maybe I did it just like once, maybe just twice. But then we hear from her friends, her own friends, who already throw holes into that story, being like, oh yeah, I like one friend, Rocky Pennington, saying she did coke with her. Io Tillett saying, oh, she did drugs, maybe it wasn't coke, but there were some drugs of choice she did. So it's like, my God, like, there's so much lies upon lies upon lies with this person. All you gotta do is just watch the way they act during this trial, and it's so abundantly clear. It's so abundantly clear. One, who the abuser was, that's Amber, and who the victim was, that was Johnny.
Now, I will say this though about this trial. I do think they brought out the worst of both together, if that makes sense. Like when Johnny was with Amber when they were together, whatever toxicness that they had together, it was brought out the worst between the two. There we go. That's what I was trying to say. So that's definitely something that you have to keep in mind, like when you're watching this trial, and probably when you're reading about this trial later and at a later date and whatnot. But yeah, this trial really did feel like one of those trials that feels like, oh, okay, this is obviously like going to be like one of those big trials that you'll probably hear about, right? And then once you hear the verdict, I'm like, yeah, like I kind of figured that was going to happen anyway. But from a actor standpoint, and from an actor's point of view, like this is the type of stuff I've seen, previously, where it's like I've been with friends who are kind of really controlling, and people, or I've seen controlling relationships. There we go. And I've been in a controlling relationship, and I've been trying to get out of that mindset, going forward.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of being in a abusive relationship, especially when you're both actors, that's like whatever toxicity, there we go, toxicity they had for each other, it just kind of like, it was just like brought out into that relationship. So whatever the worst came out of that relationship really was brought out between the two of them. And I think whatever,
it also actually speaks to that more psychological aspect of like, you end up looking for a partner who ends up, without you don't even realize it, who ends up representing something from your own past, or maybe some bad familial traits you've been with. Like a great example, Johnny talked about how he was abused by his mom, and then look at him being with Amber. And then I think we can even apply that same thing to Amber, because it seems from what we've heard that she was, not in the, didn't have the best family raising. It seemed like she had a pretty, crap dad, from what it sounds like from the, the Hurd sisters. I don't know, because again, we're also going off of someone who has constantly been lying on the stand and is literally under investigation for perjury in 3 countries now. Like literally investigated for lying on a stand. Australia, the UK, and I believe they still have one open for her in the LA Sheriff's County.
Yeah.
So that's the thing too. It's like, I can still believe that maybe there was some kind of toxic familial thing going on, but then Amber took it in a different direction. She actually manifested it and then took it out on her partner.
Yeah. And it obviously feels like, and of course there's people who are in her camp, who believe her more so than Johnny, because I think it's because of that. Oh, Johnny Depp is a huge star. He's been in like tons of box office movies. He has essentially a name brand recognition. There we go. And for Amber, she's only having her star risen within the past several years, not because of her association with Johnny Depp when they were married together, but also because she was in she's still in the DCEU.
For now.
Well, we don't know that still.
Well, here's the thing. I think when you have the president of Warner Brothers literally telling everyone on the opening court that, yeah, we limited her screen time because we just didn't see the chemistry working well between her and Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
Like, that's a pretty good indicator that, yeah, they're not only like lessening her part, but given how this trial has now gone out, they are probably going to like remove her. I honestly would not be surprised, because like if she won the trial, it'd be a different story. But because she has essentially lost, because that is ultimately what it is. Yeah, she's getting $2 million, but it's a loss because when all of Johnny's points have been proven, all the defamation points he needed to prove have been proven. That is the win. That is the win that like will literally be the end of her career in Hollywood. Now, I have to be honest.
you did mention this, though. If she had won the case, I think she probably would have had a more reasonable case if she had a more better legal team, if that's a good word there.
Well, not just legal team, even Amber herself. It's a mix.
Yeah.
It's a mixed bag of so many things because it's not just her legal team. They are very much a big part of it because yeah, they came off very condescending, very arrogant, like just aggressive to every
Like,
person that Johnny's team put up on the stand, but also arguing with the judge. My God, you are lawyers. You should know better than to argue with the judge. That should be lawyer 101.
yeah.
Like, do you all need to get your like refunds or something? Because my God. But
Yeah,
even
that's
and even
one
the
thing.
possibility that they tampered with evidence. Like, there's the possibility that they manipulated evidence, and that's a big no-no for a lawyer.
Yeah.
That literally could risk you like getting into a lot of trouble with your legal license.
But yeah, back to my original point, where it's like the idea is that there have been trials in the past that have gotten so much media coverage, right? And this was no different, right? I mean, obviously it wasn't on the television like every single day. This was more along the lines of, people on their phones watching it or live streaming it or what have you. It was more of a live stream thing. But going forward, especially in the entertainment business, when there is a lawsuit, specifically if it's a lawsuit of a name brand actor, actress, director, what have you, right? Say it could be like the next time it's not Johnny Depp suing Amber Heard. Next time it could be, and this will go into our next story in a little bit. Martin Scorsese suing Netflix for breach of contract or something like that for not promoting one of his new movies that was coming out, or Quentin Tarantino suing Quentin Tarantino suing like one of his film studios for uh, or suing one of his actors for essentially being verbally abusive on set, but also just like physically abusive on set. So, and going forward, and the whole thing too was that Amber Heard has been like one of the quote unquote voices and faces of Me Too, and Me Too is just like one of those type of situations where it's just like, oh, it's definitely one of those like literally situations where it's like literally anyone who was a victim of abuse or bullying or what have you, like me, I'm literally a victim of bullying as a kid who, and most of the time that the teach, especially in school and not only in school, but, in various other places as well, people who have been bullied or abused or what have you, they don't really have a platform to speak of, right? And now I think with this trial, people are going to figure out, oh, yes, there are like people can say that, yes, there are male abused victims. There we go. Yeah, male abused victims as opposed to the whole norm of, oh, if someone's being, if there is abuse, if there was abuse trial.
It's also, let's say this too, like, because like let's look at the Kevin Spacey incident. He is a man, and he is, and then it came out that he was abusing, young boys. If I remember the incident that was reported correctly. So it's more like that a woman can be a perpetrator of abuse against a man. Yes, it's not the norm. It doesn't happen that often, but it still can happen. It is still possible.
Yeah. But I will say this though, to wrap things up. I will say, yeah, I will say this though. The stories behind what happened in this trial is going to be, it will go out in infamy, but the stories that will come out in like in books and stuff like that too, maybe in a few years, that'll be the most interesting stuff because you essentially spend 6 weeks. I believe that was
it was a 6-week trial. Yeah.
You essentially spend 6 weeks on a defamation trial to say, hey, I'm the victim of I'm a victim of abuse thing, and the abuser is in court right now, and I can't really stand to look at them.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to say to another like a normal trial, like in a civic trial, where it's just like, okay, uh, this is because this is a domestic abuse trial, right? A partner hit another partner, right? And that's been going on like more recently. Is like people have been finding out like, there was a recent, I forgot who it was, but there was a recent sports athlete who got arrested for abusing their own partner, and because of that, right? Then when the news broke, they found out that the sports athlete, right, who was gay, pretty much abused their partner, right, and that pretty much also outed their partner in public eye, meaning that person really couldn't have a choice to say, hey, I'm actually out and whatnot. So there will be times like that, where civic trials, where it's like, oh, domestic violence, and that will always be around, right? Domestic violence will always be around. Domestic assault, whatnot. It's just that right now.
Yeah, it's just an unfortunate truth.
Yeah, and I think that's what this trial has really got to bring out, is like people really looking more about the male side of domestic abuse, the male side of being a domestic victim. There we go. I couldn't, for some reason, I keep on thinking it's domestic abused, but it's domestic victim, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think they say DV, like domestic violence, and then they just say like, a victim of DV.
Yeah,
that's what I think. That's what I think it's generally. But yeah, it's also one of those things too of just like, the idea of the patriarchy where it's like the men are always super strong and the women are super weak. Yeah. Well, if the idea is to crumple the patriarchy, then wouldn't also this be doing that too? Because if anything, if they believe that, oh, well, Johnny couldn't have been a victim of abuse, that actually would technically enforce the patriarchy, because the patriarchy says men can't be victims, and women can never be abusing.
Yeah, and
that's the whole idea of what the patriarchy is, essentially, more or less. Like, I know it's one hell of a simplification, but generally, in terms of what it's supposed to mean, that is essentially what it would apply to. Honestly, so it's like, yeah, like, and honestly, Johnny's lawyer, Ben Juice, made this great point in his closing. This was a Me Too where there was no Me Too.
Yeah.
So it's like, exactly, like if someone else actually did come forward and then said something similar happened, this would be a different story. But that didn't happen because it wasn't true.
Honestly, the whole trial was a very messy trial. I will not. I mean, I will admit that. Mm-hmm. For someone who was just like watching, just like randomly, like maybe a few minutes of trial, maybe an hour of trial, and just watching some of the interaction between the plaintiff and the defendant, and also people on the stand, it was a messy trial.
Oh yeah, like it says a lot about you as a person when your lawyers are that shitty, your witnesses don't even actually defend you. They don't actually corroborate the stories you're actually making up, but if anything, are putting more holes in it. And then your so-called expert witnesses are some of the most unprofessional people that I've really seen in a long while on a witness stand.
I'm just glad that
it's amazing.
I'm just glad that the trial's over and people could actually get focused on more important matters in the world.
Well, let me say this. It's like, well, okay,
okay.
let me say this. Let me just say this.
I'm not saying that domestic violence isn't an important matter. I mean, it is. God help me, it is an important matter. But I'm just saying that.
But let me say
Okay,
let me say
stop.
let me just
Let me stop before I shoot myself in the foot. Okay.
okay, let me just say this, and then we can move on.
Okay.
For a lot of people, this trial was people, in a lot of ways, probably getting to see the justice that they never got to see for themselves in their situations. Because so many people I've seen on Twitter have been essentially recounting that they see themselves in Johnny and they see their abusers in Amber. And people are watching this because they want to see justice. And also, too, there's so much just shit going. I'm just gonna be blunt about it, going on in the world, but we can't do anything about it. There's nothing we can do about it. And if someone tries to tell you you're just an awful person for wanting to watch this trial between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard instead of focusing on everything else going on in the world, you know how draining it is. Because there's nothing we can do. Like, I'm sorry, but that's just kind of the cold, hard truth of the matter. We can't do anything about the mass shootings going on. We can't do anything. Just as individual people, can't do anything about that. We can't do anything about what's going on in Ukraine. We can't do anything about climate change. Like, I'm sorry. All you also so and so quote unquote progressive people who want to act that way, all high and mighty that I've seen acting like that, but. What are we, the individual people, supposed to do about all that stuff going on in the world you want us to care about? First off, we already care about it. The problem is we can't do anything about it. We're just going to be outraged, but we can't do anything with it because there's nothing we actually can do. There just isn't. Like, that's just the cold hard truth. We don't live in areas where we can actually effectively make this change because I'm going on a tangent, but it's just like there's so much I've seen about this that has infuriated me so much. It's like it's also just really disrespectful to people. It's like you're just calling everyone stupid because they wanted to watch a trial, because maybe they wanted to just focus on something else for a little bit instead of the doom and gloom reality that we cannot change.
And speaking of disrespectful, which goes into our next story of the week that kind of came out today. What the hell does Netflix mean by vanity projects? I mean, this is a weird segue to go into Netflix and the whole vanity project spiel, but so I mean, congratulations to the Johnny Depp team for essentially knocking it out of the park, and just congratulations to the jury for essentially enjoying 6 weeks of essentially a circus of a show of a trial, really.
And honestly, just serving justice. I'm just gonna say it like that.
But going into our next story, so we don't talk about this whole thing about for another 30 minutes. I mean, we could, but again, we're not legal people, so we're just people in the acting business. So
even Legal Eagle was had some pretty crap takes about this.
Yeah. So yeah, our next story. Netflix has basically announced that they are stopping productions, or rather stopping the go-ahead of productions of what they call quote-unquote vanity projects. Vanity projects like The Irishman. And they are more focusing on popcorn movies like Burn Notice, Red Notice, The Adam Project, the new Russo brothers movie coming out, The Gray Man, and essentially gearing towards more fun type of movies, I think is what they're trying to say. They are. I think another article that they were also aiming for aiming for more productions that are like a more lower tier, mid tier production budget, like say All the Boys Love, whatever that. All the Boys Love, what are those? To All My Boys I Love, I think that's what they call movies. The Kissing Booth, or essentially those type of movies. Now, when I think of a vanity project, it's odd because a vanity project to me has always been saying this is what an actor has been trying to produce or a director has been trying to make for the past, like, say, 10 years, 20 years. But vanity projects, to me, also means the director or actor has a huge stake in this project because a lot of their own personal idea or beliefs really do stem off of that. Like a great example of a vanity project would be Battlefield Earth. Battlefield Earth was a huge vanity project. Huge. Uh, People will probably be pissed off about this type of one, but another vanity project will probably be Don't Look Up. Don't Look Up was a huge vanity project because it involved not only Leonardo DiCaprio talking about climate change, which is a very serious subject, but the way it is also portrayed in the movie, uh, the way it's also portrayed is like, yeah, like when I read the words vanity project, I literally just see, films that are. It takes a while to get made because of the personal stake the either an actor has in the movie or a filmmaker has in the movie. Another vanity project that was like that would probably be any number of movies that Edward Norton has made, quote unquote, because because of him, Edward Norton always has stake in the movies he's made because he believes in these movies, and they are vanity projects because he always has a personal stake in these movies. But I don't know why Netflix decides to single out The Irishman, because The Irishman, I don't feel it is a vanity project. If anything, that was a development hell project. But that literally was a movie that Scorsese was trying to make since the mid 2000s. So like, maybe at least for 15 to at least 17 years, I think, maybe even before the 2000s. So like a long time. So maybe even like 20 years. And I think the reason why they say they're singling out the Irishman is because I don't think Netflix believed it probably didn't, even though it was rightfully reviewed to be like a very critical hit, right? Like critically, it just wasn't a big hit financially for them, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what they mean by vanity projects, like projects that are, maybe. Man, something's happening outside. Sorry, folks.
That's New York for you.
I know. And I happen to live in a very quiet Brooklyn neighborhood, and every so often you just hear like a random, either a random car just speeding down the street, people honking their horn, or something sort of like that. But yeah, the excuse me, folks. It's been a long day for me too, so. But yeah, vanity projects, like to me, just mean that there is a personal stake from a actor, actress, performer, what have you, or filmmaker, writer, director, producer. And to me, the way Netflix says vanity projects just means, oh, it was a critical hit, but it wasn't financially successful, is what I'm basically seeing. Films that are basically aren't financially successful because they were vanity projects.
Mm-hmm.
And if that was the case, then any movie that has come out over the past, like, say, what, since the dawn of filmmaking, has been a vanity project.
And I love how it's also like this whole thing of like, oh, well, it didn't make financial, success. And it's like, Netflix, y'all don't know really how to have a financial success because the current quality of your content really sums it all up there. That
Yeah.
you're just like shooting yourselves in the foot because you don't know how to actually produce quality content. You just churn out stuff because you think it's going to be easy money, but the problem is that's not going to actually make you money in the end. It's not going to get you people to subscribe for more viewers. And just increasing the price for what people have to pay to use your service, that's not going to help you. That's also going to turn people away.
I'm sorry, my light decided to go into ultra bright mode just now. I'm like my actual light in the room. It decided to go straight into
They're like ultra bright.
yeah, ultra bright when it was just like very dim bright. So just give me a couple of seconds. Continue your thing.
So yeah. So I feel like we're probably gonna either see that like pop at some point. But yeah, it's like Netflix's bigger problem isn't this whole thing of, as they want to call vanity projects. I think that's just their cover.
There we go.
But yeah, so I think this.
Yeah. Oh, now it's flickering. Okay, yeah, okay.
just Bryan having an argument with an inanimate object.
That's New York for you.
Yep. But yeah, like I'll just kind of quickly sum up what I think about this. I think this is just Netflix giving themselves yet another excuse when, their returns don't come back as good as they want, when they don't make as much money as they want. That they're just gonna blame something else instead of their poorly mismanaged like platform, their like poorly handled content, honestly.
Oh yeah,
because like just a great example, that Red Notice movie, I think it was, with Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, Gal Gadot. It's like as soon as I saw the trailer, I knew this was going to be one of those like easy like cash grab kind of movies for Netflix. Like they're just throwing it out there, hoping they'll get people in it because it's got these big names. But you need to you actually have to produce good quality content to get people actually wanting to go to your platform, and two, you got to actually have reasonable prices to match the content you have in the first place.
Yeah.
Like for instance, HBO Max, they have a plethora of quality content, and the highest you could get price-wise, I think, is like $15 for no ads to be able to stream everything. That's a great deal. But then Netflix is starting to increase their prices so much more for content that is actually going away. Because Netflix has been losing content for a long time now. Because it's like either going to because it just goes to other streaming services. Peacock got rid of the stuff on there for American streaming audiences and put it onto their sites, like The Office, Parks and Rec maybe I think was probably on there. And they put it onto their streaming services. And then you get the same thing with the like Disney Plus, Disney Plus now, but the Disney, like the Marvel Netflix shows that are now on Disney Plus, because Disney was like, okay, now we're going to take those off of there and put it on our platform because we have the streaming platform now, and because the contract is ended, I think that's what it was, we can take them. So it's like Netflix has been losing good quality content. They don't know how to consistently maintain any good quality of content because they're just trying to now churn out stuff because they're in survival mode, it feels like.
Oh yeah, because and to counter, not counter, but to continue on for that point, they are like Stranger Things season 4 has just been released, right? And it is according to them, it is like one of the most successful launches, even though they were spending $30 million per episode, and I actually could see why, because the first 2 episodes are amazingly looking, amazingly looking. It's a very rough, like very Dungeons and Dragons name. Okay, since Hayden is the Dungeons and Dragons person of this podcast, may know what this name is and what the character does. But essentially, the character, the season 4 Big Bad, is like this very Freddy Krueger-esque type of character that is just like a pure CGI creation. And I could see why it was $30 million per episode if they are going to have a character like that included to be the. Do you know what that name is?
I'd have to look that up. Just because I know some of Dungeons and Dragons doesn't mean I know the whole plethora.
Okay. This is what happens when.
No, okay. So let me say this about Dungeons and Dragons. Every time you think you know something, you're constantly learning something else in the process. Because it's a constant evolving learning process of a game.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, interesting.
Sorry about that.
Oh, good. I mean, I'm kind of surprised too. They're incorporating D&D in there because like they already were doing that with them playing the game of Dungeons and Dragons, like the first episode of the first season, like the pilot.
Well, it's more D&D focused as a show has gone on, but now it's like in season 4, it's like it's more focused because now they're actually using the whole D&D 80s panic of it being a satanic thing. And again, I'm only seeing the first 2 episodes. I don't know, what more the thing is. But back to my original point, Netflix essentially spend 30 million of its own money just for the 8 episodes or 9 episodes or 10 episodes. I forgot how many episodes there are for this season of Stranger Things, but basically spent 10 episodes of Stranger Things. And that's like maybe like $500 million or whatever. You just go into some of that, production. Compared to say Red Notice, which was essentially a $200 million budgeted type of thing. Some of it obviously came from probably maybe Netflix, but also the production companies as well. The Rock always does his own production company, so it probably came from some of them as well. Gal Gadot as well, probably Ryan Reynolds and his company Maximum Effort. I'm pretty sure they had like a little thing in there, but. To me, when it comes down to, Netflix just doesn't want to say some of the more financial movies that were released in theaters or something like that were flops because of just were just flops because they believed they were just vanity products. I feel is the most bullshittiest answer you probably could say when, like what you were just saying before, a lot of products or projects coming out in Netflix really doesn't have the same appeal that it did, like say, several years ago now. Mm-hmm. It's more along the lines of a very cookie cutter-esque streaming service compared to say something like Disney Plus or HBO Max or even something like Peacock or Paramount Plus or whatever, another streaming service like say Shudder, and they're certainly doing much more better stuff because they actually know how to put in some of these budgets. Where it's like Netflix now, because they were just the king of streaming, they were practically just throwing money at anything and just hope that it actually sticks. Mm-hmm. And now they're like, you know what? Throwing money at these products don't really work for us anymore. So these vanity new products, we won't do this anymore. We'll just focus on more big budgeted, like popcorn movies. And I feel like that they are doing that because, they just don't want to partake in a director, say say Guillermo del Toro. Guillermo del Toro.
Guillermo del Toro.
Guillermo del Toro. I think he has like a Netflix movie coming out based on Pinocchio. I think it's supposed to come out. It was supposed to have come out this year, but I think it's probably gonna be come out to next year. I think, give or take. And
yeah, because they should have released a trailer by now if they were gonna come out with it like this year.
And this movie is also stop motion, so this is a stop motion version of Pinocchio.
Huh. Okay.
So what I'm basically seeing is that okay, the total this Pinocchio will probably be financially somewhat successful if it goes to theaters because again Pinocchio, family movie, hopefully the family movie.
Also the name of the director as well.
Yeah. I forgot my train of thought. Oh, right. It's like when I see a project like that, it's like, yeah, that doesn't feel like a vanity project. It just feels like a project that Netflix believed to be a good project to invest in. And now it's like, I wouldn't be surprised. It's like maybe when that movie comes out, it's like, yeah, this movie didn't do financially well, so we just blame everything else, instead of blaming themselves. So yeah, Netflix has just been like the crazy neighbor who just became crazy over like quarantine and now hasn't like fully embraced the fact they are crazy.
Yeah.
All right, and I think to end this episode, we gotta just talk about Star Wars. Something more light-hearted. Well, obviously.
That's probably not the best turn of phrase given the topic we're going to be talking about.
Okay, not light-hearted, but yeah, I've been all over today just because of just a lot of personal stuff. So I'm sorry, folks. So yeah, Star Wars. This is the news. They just recently did Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim 2022. It looked fun. The people have gotten some of the best things seen from a Star Wars point of view, or a certain point of view, as someone would say. They've seen. I forgot what her last name is, but the voice actress.
Ingram, was it? I think.
No. I'm talking about Ashley Eckert, the voice actress for Ahsoka.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the
We'll talk about it. But at the Star Wars Celebration, they had Ashley Erickson, I think her name is. But basically, the voice actress to Ahsoka and talking to essentially Hayden Christensen, Anakin Skywalker, and her calling him Sky Guy. And everyone loved that because, well, that's the nickname Ahsoka has done over the past, like, Clone Wars, I believe. And people just hearing about the projects that's coming out soon, like Tales of the Jedi, Jedi Fallen, Jedi. Is it Fallen Survivor or is?
It's just Jedi Survivor, I think it was.
Oh, Jedi Survivor. Okay, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, the sequel to Fallen Order. The guy who plays Boba Fett, or Jango Fett, I should say.
Tamara Morrison.
Yeah, Tamara Morrison just having a field day of just being there. Sam Witwer. Man,
the guy who played Starkiller in the Force Unleashed games and also voiced Darth Maul in the Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah, having a field day because of a meme now going around of
Kenobi.
Yeah, of Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen kind of confused over a interviewer's interviewer saying that their Star Wars crush growing up was Darth Maul, and Hayden was just like this, and Ewan McGregor is just like, you're sure about that? And Sam, who voices Darth Maul in some of the cartoons and majority of some of his work now, has just said, "In your face, Kenobi." So everyone who was there, they were having a field day having that. And of course, Star Wars Celebration is a celebration because they are just celebrating a lot of just what Star Wars has been like building up to for the past, like, say, 47 years, 45 years now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 45 years, I think. Yeah, it is 45 years. Oh my God. But from the good stuff, specifically since some of the good stuff also came out with Obi-Wan Kenobi being like the highest streaming single day thing for Disney Plus, I think, or one of the things.
Mm-hmm.
But out of the good of essentially Star Wars Celebration comes from the bad.
Yeah, but we talked about the good, but now we got to cover some of that bad that's happened.
Yeah, so, and there's a twofold with the badness. There's Moses Ingram, who plays, what is it, the third sister, or?
Yeah, one of the Inquisitors.
Yeah,
I forget their names because they technically don't have names. They just have numbers and then what your sibling name is, like are you a sister or your brother, like that kind of thing. So it's like,
Yeah. Which has always been confusing to me about Inquisitors. Like, oh, there's like the first brother, the second brother, third brother, and then they're like the first sister, the second sister, the third sister, the fourth sister, and then it was like, but you also follow that like do you also do like the first brother, second sister, third brother, fourth sister, or is it just like?
I think they probably like go by how they like acquire them. So if they acquire a guy, he's the first brother, and then if they acquire a woman, second sister. So I think that's how they probably go about it. And I think it's also just that way of indoctrination too, of like, we're getting rid of your name. You're just a number, and then here is your family of people who are just also numbers as well.
But Moses Ingram, right, who plays one of the sisters in Obi-Wan Kenobi, has been essentially getting, well, we won't
sugarcoat it.
Yeah, we won't sugarcoat it. Has been essentially racist tyrants or comments about how essentially racist comments.
Yeah, just getting a lot of racist like comments in her DMs on social media.
And this hasn't been this has been around in Star Wars for quite some time. Going forth since
since the Jar Jar days.
Yeah, the Jar Jar days.
Like God, and honestly, like that was where like, and I know it's bad, what Moses Ingram got, but like, I mean, honestly, like Jar Jar in particular, he got so much of the worst of it.
Yeah.
I'm not diminishing. I'm just kind of like stating what is a known fact. Like it is a known fact that he did get the worst of it, to the point where like even the media was essentially going after him.
Yeah,
and that's just not a good sign.
Yeah,
like that's just not good. That's just not a good look for anyone.
And to pick up on that, not only was Ahmed Best, but also Jake Lloyd got ridiculed for playing, little Anakin Skywalker. Because again, Anakin Skywalker in the Phantom Menace, you have to remember, he is just a child, and children do not, children actors are.
Well, anyway, let's just kind of stick to what these criticisms do have in common, because that criticism for Jake Lloyd doesn't have a lot to do in common with the rest of the criticism that we are talking about. So let's just kind of keep it focused.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, so Moses Ingram has been getting a lot of stuff, racist comments, messages about her character, but just her in general, and it really has been a focal point since the last, well, not even the Last Jedi, but since the sequel trilogy has come out, where it's like John Boyega, Kelly Marie Tran, and Lily, a few others have been having the same problems, because there is a toxicity, like there is a toxic fan base in Star Wars, whereas like they just don't want to. Yeah, right.
Yeah, like so like the garbage truck was coming down the road and it just like
Oh,
it's not like I think it slammed one of the like trash bins. I'm just like, whoa.
oh, okay. Because the way you were looking at it, I thought someone was in the room with you. I'm like, again,
Oh, hi Vader.
I digress. But yeah,
Anyway, yeah.
back to serious shit. Okay. So, like, yeah, this stuff has been happening for like a long time in the Star Wars fan base, and a lot of it has just been because of they just don't like the character, so they just take it out on the actor or the actress, or even if it wasn't an actor or actress, they just don't like it. They'll just take it out on the filmmaker. Like, okay, you know who this writer of this episode is, or they know who directed this episode, so they'll take it out on them because it was their choice of having that whole added as well. And yeah, it just feels a lot of just hostility because of this person decides to do a job, right? Their choices and whatnot, and the fans don't like how the people just don't like the acting or something like that, and they decide just like, you know what, we'll just be more assholes about it, and yeah.
And honestly, what's so weird about this too is like, I don't know if weird's the right word, but it's like Disney, well, yes, they are coming to defend her. Was Disney doing this in the past though?
No.
And honestly, I think that's something we really need to kind of keep in mind too, because it's like, great, you're doing this now, Disney. Where the hell were you guys all these years ago when John Boyega and Kelly Marie Tran were also getting these same things? Like Disney, come on. Like you should, like if you actually cared, Disney, you should have been doing it in the first place. Because that's why I feel it's a little sus, as the kids say.
Yeah.
Because if you cared, you should have been doing it in the first place. Because Disney loves to act like they care.
Now,
but it's like, do they actually care at all? Because again, if you cared, you should have been doing it sooner.
Now, Moses Ingram isn't like the only one being frowned upon for her character. The actress who plays Layla, Vivian Blair, right? I mean, the moment I see Layla on screen, I'm like, yeah, this is what Layla would be on as a kid, just like this rambunctious child and whatnot. But there's this reviewer, Grace Randolph, who really hates the character for some reason, and she really just doesn't like Layla as a kid. And a lot of people are just like, oh, it's just like. First off, I'm like, how the hell can you not like a kid actor doing their job? Because it looks like they're having the funniest time on this set. I'm like, first off, if I'm able to say, hey, you know, I'm going to play a Star Wars character, I'm gonna have fun with that.
Exactly.
I don't care if it's a Jedi, a Sith, or a Rebel, or Inquisitor, or Imperial officer, or whatnot.
And also, is it that problem too of that whole thing of like, oh well, Obi-Wan is now not protecting Luke because that was his original assignment to go and protect Luke, and like, I kind of get that to a degree, but at the same time, he's really the only one out there that can help in this situation. He just is, and also. They're just child actors. I'm sorry, but they're not going to be turning in the Oscar performances when they're kids. They don't have the experience to really do that. And if they do, they're like a 1 in a million child actors. So it's like let's give the kids some breaks here.
Yeah. And like I said, and like you just said before, you know, Disney didn't do this like a few years ago where John Boyega or Kelly Marie Tran got harassed online because of the characters, specifically Kelly Marie Tran, who, you know, who The Last Jedi was essentially her first movie, I think, or
probably one of the first like blockbuster ones, I'd say.
Yeah,
If I have the information right, I
or at
think.
least like one of her first big movies, like like essentially her big break.
Yeah.
And that essentially the character and essentially just being ridiculed because of everything, even in the Star Wars fan base, and then it just gets to a point where it's just like, I think now the people behind Star Wars, at least the creative team, maybe behind these shows, are more mindful of just more mindful about everything because, again, one of the big figureheads is Jon Favreau. So I imagine Jon Favreau was just like you just put his foot down on a lot of things, especially if something like this is happening.
Oh yeah.
And then you get essentially Ewan McGregor coming out and having a video posted on the Star Wars Twitter account talking about all this. That really does say a lot.
Absolutely.
That of course, sexism, racism, what have you. That's not the new in Hollywood or entertainment. There's always going to be like that, especially as an actor, performer, what have you, filmmaker.
Yeah, like if you got a problem with a show, if your problem with a show or a movie or anything is what a character's skin color is, what their gender is, like what their sexual orientation is, I'm sorry, but just leave the room. Just get out of here and let the adults have the conversation because you're not acting like an adult. You're just acting like a little child because they're not getting what they perceive they want for whatever nonsensical reason. Like if you the only kind of real problems you should have with a show is the actor delivering a believable performance.
Yeah.
That's not something that you attribute to skin color. That's more about the acting ability.
Yeah.
I think Moses Ingram does great. I think there are maybe one or two lines where I'm like, okay, maybe they should have done one more take. But other than that, she's doing good.
Yeah.
And let's also look at the fact that it's like the writing of the character. If you're gonna have her character kill off another villain who's supposed to be a central part to another Star Wars show, Rebels, for that whole first season, that's the bigger problem than something as ridiculous as someone's skin color. Because skin color is not the problem. Killing off a character who's supposed to be in another show, messing up the continuity, that's kind of a little bit of a problem there. That's the real issue. Don't focus on stuff like that because if you are, I'm sorry, but you're just stupid. Plain and simple. Because then it's like you're just ruining what we could all actually have. Just have just actual critiques and conversations about media, about shows. Because now you're just poisoning the well of.
Yeah.
It's like the whole thing, and it's also like that thing with Last Jedi. The problem was never the skin color of John Boyega's character Finn or Kelly Marie Tran's character Rose. The problem was how they were written, was how they were utilized. They were used as jokes.
Yeah.
For the entirety of Last Jedi. And this is coming from a company that loves to act like they care about, being inclusive. But you literally repeat the same character arc for your black actor, for John Boyega's character that he had in the previous movie, essentially saying that all that work they did in that movie was null and void, and you're doing it again in this one.
Yeah.
Which is not only ridiculous, but then you just go out of your way to make them the jokes and then give the white characters all the character development.
Yeah.
And I think also that's something you should keep in mind too. It's like they did that. Rian Johnson did that. He wrote it like that because he was given the green light to write it how he wanted. Sure, Disney probably got in the way here and there, but he generally wrote it the way he wanted to because he was given that pass to do so.
Yeah.
So maybe we should also take a hard look at some of the stuff Disney has done, how they've treated characters of color in their movies and their products.
Oh, and we could have a discussion about that. It's
exactly. Exactly. So if Disney wants to act like they care, then we also have to look at Disney in the past and look at their failures to characters of color, to actors of color.
Like one of the
And
biggest.
look at how and then be able to try and move forward from that. Anyway.
Like one of the biggest things about that would be probably casting, say, someone. So, okay, so one of the biggest things that about Wanda Maximoff is that she's a Romanian Jewish character in the comics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they essentially erased that in the Marvel Cinematic Universe to be more, I guess, Christian or more, just basically more, less of that thing. Compared that to where now is where Moon Knight, right, a character who is canonically Jewish, his character literally has, a lot of like Jewish, like a lot of Jewish faith and a lot of Jewish religion happening in that show.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to say Wanda, who basically had her own like stuff erased. I think because of her, her father being, Magneto, and they couldn't really use Magneto, so they had to work around with that.
Yeah.
But you basically erased essentially a canonicity of the character to basically work around to say, okay, this is basically our version of Wanda, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it really does feel like Disney is like, oh, we'll try and do our best, but in the same time, they will just backpedal and just say, hey, this is us trying to take us in the step direction, like how we like I mentioned this before, Beauty and the Beast. Lily has LaFawn have a gay moment in the moment by having him just dance with one person, another guy, another male character for 1 second for screen time, and then that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And
then they purposely do that so they can then cut it out when they sell it to audiences who aren't going to be friendly to LGBTQ scenes. They did the same thing in Rise of Skywalker when 2 extras have a kiss in the background for a couple of seconds. They cut it out when they send it to countries that are not fans of LGBTQ people existing.
And
and they probably did the same thing with that Doctor Strange movie too. That I think we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and I do find it amazing though that we're in June, and June is Pride Month. So happy Pride Month to anybody who is celebrating that. Me as an ally, I'm just like, okay, I'll do my best to help anybody who will be like that. But I do find it amazing that Disney is trying to crack down on this stuff now, right as Pride Month is happening, when a lot of what Pride Month has been known to be is corporations just basically stamping on the rainbow, the rainbow colored logo for a month and just be like, hey, we're allies, we know how to do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, you can trust us. We're your friends. Yes. And then we're gonna donate to the politicians who want you dead.
Yes.
But we're your allies, right?
Yeah. So, but basically,
it's so ridiculous.
It's double-edged sword with this. Like, at one hand, I think Disney's trying to do their best currently in some of the stuff, but at the same time, if you do look at the past, and do notice that this isn't really Disney doing their best. I think this is just Disney trying to save face, like always. And at the end, I think that's basically
because Disney at the end of the day is a corporation, and you got to ask yourself at the end of the day, what do corporations love more than anything? Making a profit.
Yeah. And on that note, on that note, I think that's basically what for. Although I think we could end this episode with another recommendation thing. Do you have any recommendations of any films or TV shows that you enjoyed over the week? Aside from Obi-Wan.
Well, okay. So first for Obi-Wan, I'm just gonna say the first 2 episodes, I was meh. Because I think the problem is this is the problem Disney has with a lot of their shows.
Yeah.
6 episodes is not enough. It's too short. My God. That third episode, though, is fantastic, but I think they're going to drop the ball with it because 6 episodes, it's just not enough. Like, if they can make, like the amount they've done for The Mandalorian, that's a great amount. They should have been doing that in the first place. I don't know why they weren't. But, so I will recommend instead Barry on HBO Max.
Barry. I still have
or I guess technically HBO, but you can get it on HBO Max.
Yeah. I just recently watched this last night because I needed a good feel good movie. So I recently watched Starship Troopers last night. I don't know how people were like, Bryan, how does that make sense? Starship Troopers is not a feel good movie. Well, it is to me, damn it. Okay. I'm the host. It is to me. But yeah. Starship Troopers also puts me in a good, just allows me just to essentially break from reality and just like allowed me to just watch something that's like 2 hours of just like mindless action. I mean, I wouldn't say it's mindless action. There is actually a story behind it in action, and I'm actually picking up a lot more of the political cues in that movie compared to say like maybe 10, 15 years ago. And I do also watch this movie like every other year or every year, depending on, because I usually try and watch it for my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I couldn't do it last week because I was working. So
yeah.
And then I again, I didn't have that much for a break time to watch it. So yeah, I recommend Starship Troopers for this week. Hayden recommends this Barry. And I just recommend that next week will be a better week overall. And until then, please be safe, be careful, and be well.
And may the force be with you all.
Always.